Hi everyone, this is Miho from bilingualmc.jp, バイリンガルフリーアナウンサーの野口美穂です。And today I am in Hawaii on vacation, and I'm joined by my dear friend and my mentor, Dr. Sue Zeng in Hawaii.
Yay.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Aloha. Aloha.
And
Aloha.
Sue Sensei is an assistant professor at University of Hawaii and a program coordinator for the Center of Interpretation and Translation Studies. And also she is a certified interpreter, conference interpreter in English and Chinese. Can you say hello in Chinese?
你好。
I can say that.
很高兴跟大家在一起了。I'm
there
really
you go.
happy to be here today.
There you go. All right. So,
I'm drinking Kona coffee.
Welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
And I attended the summer intensive interpretation program in 2013, and you were, in charge of the whole program. Well, program is really, really intensive, and I remember every day I came back from UH and with lots of readings, assignments to finish, and you were really hard, strict, and trying to be very rigid, in the class, but
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And so it's been 5 years, so how has the program been doing?
Well, the program, is about probably our 13th year or 14th year, maybe 15th, I can't remember. But it's a 6-week intensive interpreter training program that we offer every other summer. And so we're going to be offering it in July and August in 2019. Next year. And so what I like about the program is that we invite, anyone anywhere around the world can come to our program, as long as they can pass the qualifying English and the second language exam.
That's right.
Yeah, as long as they're fluent, pretty fluent. We welcome anyone from all over the world.
Right. So right now, well, I was in the Japanese class, of course, and what other languages do you have right now?
Well, last year, 2017, we had Japanese, Chinese, Mandarin, Korean, French, and Spanish.
French is new. Yeah.
And we only allow 10 people in each class.
Oh, yeah. That's
so we
right.
try to keep it small. And our Spanish teacher came from, he's a former United Nations interpreter, and the French teacher comes from, Belgium, where they train the European Union interpreters and things. So we have Beijing, people from Beijing, and anyway, it's just a wonderful. The teachers are wonderful.
Yes,
it's fun.
Yes. I was very overwhelmed by the quality of the program, and also, every day we practiced so many hours, even after school. I and other students got together to study and practice.
Right, because the classes are only from 8:30 to 12.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then from 12, you kind of get to know each other, go eat, and then students tend to study all the way into the evening. And the more you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was actually my first time to really interact, get to know Japanese speaking, American interpreters, for example, because the people that I know in Japan are Japanese who speak English and work as interpreters. So that was a very interesting experience to know how they convert the languages, switch from Japanese to English in their way.
So it wasn't really competitive. It was more you helped each other get better.
That's right. I would say, how would you say that in English? It's to my native English speaking friend.
I see. And they would say to you, how do you say this in Japanese?
That's right. Yeah, so we help each other a lot.
It's a great program, because you get so close to people, like you said, And even now, 5 years later, look at us. We're still sitting here in Hawaii and drinking lovely Kona coffee.
Yeah.
And talking, and we still keep in contact with people. And so it's just an amazing program where you work so hard. And the payoff is so wonderful. Have you used what you've learned?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I am as you know, I'm event host MC, and I have to do a lot of speech translation on the stage. And my experience from UH, just went a long way, have gone a long way, to keep me confident on the stage. And sometimes, I want to start panicking sometimes, but as a professional interpreter, I know how to look calm and take care of things.
Right, because I think some things that we teach is not just the skills of interpreting, note-taking techniques and concentration skills for simultaneous techniques, but also psych translation, right, and how to stay calm, and the do's and the don'ts of an interpreter, right? Yeah, and just some tips for the trade. I mean, it's really fun. I mean, it's things that you can, well worth the investment. I sure hope for you it was well worth the investment.
Yes, it was.
And there's a lot of community interpreting in Hawaii, as well as a lot of the U.S. Now, because of the laws that have changed. So a lot of interpreting in the hospitals, in the courtrooms, in social services, as well as conference and escort interpreting. In Hawaii, we get a lot of that. So.
Right. Well, that community interpreting was very new to me, because my background as an interpreter was based on international conferences in Japan. But when you look at the daily lives, especially in Hawaii, it's so diverse. A lot of people go to the police, the police and the courts and the hospitals, and they need interpreters. And it's the law in the United States to get a professional interpretation service for those people in need.
Right.
Yes.
Either face to face or over the phone. Right. Very good. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities especially for Japanese interpreters. A lot of opportunities.
Oh, because there are so many immigrants or tourists or
everything. We have business people coming here. We have tourists. We have immigrants. It's everything. And everyone gets sick. There's even people who fly here all the way from Japan to see a doctor in certain areas, that might be more specialized here.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. And we have a lot of great interpreters and a lot of people who need it. And conferences, international conferences.
Oh, happening right here.
Yeah, whether it be medical interpreter conferences or just anything from sales to, makeup to all kinds of things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a big need for good Japanese interpreters.
Okay. Tell me how you, decided to direct this program. Yeah.
So actually, I think since 1999 we started this program, because there is a lot of inquirers on how do you have any short-term programs, because I work full-time and I don't have the time to become a student again. And so we realized that although students themselves, can study interpreting the whole year around, there are many people out there doing it already. And if they're doing it without ever having been trained. And then once you start doing interpreting, you realize, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got to get training. So we have a number of students that come after they fall into this field. And I think because people think that, oh, you speak English, you speak Japanese, why don't you interpret for this conference? And you're like, sure. And then you start interpreting, you realize, I can't listen and talk at the same time. What am I going to do? So there's a lot of, the speaker went on and on and on, and I couldn't remember everything. And then they realize, oh, I think I better get trained. And because ours is only a 6-week program, morning only, it's easy for people to get off work, or some even quit their jobs, and they come all the way to Hawaii to study this 6-week program, because it's short, it's intensive, and it's very, very good. So when they go back to their jobs, they go back with a lot of new skills, a lot of new confidence, and like yourself, you've done very well.
Yeah.
Even in the MC area, you've had to interpret other people speaking. I have to interpret this, right?
That's right. It's a big part of my job right now. But I would like to know your personal background, how you became interested in the language.
Well, really quickly, just very briefly, because it's kind of boring. I just, when I was the last year of my college, I had an opportunity to go to Hong Kong as an exchange student. And I realized, well, in Hong Kong, I guess I'll have to learn the language. So when I got to Hong Kong for my last year, I was at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. I started studying both Cantonese and Mandarin, in an intensive type, as well as my own major. And so after that, I decided to go to Taiwan after college. And then I stayed there and I studied another 2 years, like 4 hours every day, or two hours every day, and one-on-one. And I just learned the language, and I used it every day, and I stayed there for 7 years. So I kept learning. And then I came back to Hawaii, and I studied Chinese linguists. And then I had the opportunity to study interpreting. So I went through the intensive interpreter program that they had it was a year-long program. And I thought to myself, this was nice. I will never be an interpreter. That was good. That was too hard. Bye, And then I got a call from a law office say, hey, we need a Mandarin interpreter. Can you do it? And I'm like, well, I'm so, even though I'm trained, I'm like, I'm not that good. There's so many really good ones. And they said, yeah, but we'll pay you $50 an hour. And I'm like, $50 an hour? And at that time, it was good. So in 1 week, I made like $2,000 US, and I'm like, maybe I will be an interpreter, because it can be lucrative. So I kind of stumbled into it.
Oh, it wasn't your plan.
Oh no,
in
not
the first
at all.
place.
Oh, not at all. I just thought, this will be fun, and my friends were doing it, so I did it. I never knew that today I'd end up teaching, interpreting, and being, I trained court interpreters and medical interpreters, and I just never ever would have believed that I could do that.
I see. Well, but being a bilingual is totally different from being able to interpret. Right? How did you overcome that? The struggles as a bilingual speaker. Like, did you have to train a lot, or did you continuously improve your Chinese language level?
Well, even in our program, if you want to study in our summer program, the basics is language. So I tell people, if you're bilingual especially, or if you are really good at both languages, then you're ready to learn interpreting.
I see.
But before that, it's too hard. If you're stopping at every other word when you're listening and you want to interpret, and you're like, how do I say that in my other language? And you're struggling with language, then you can't learn the skills of interpreting. But that's the basics. And once you have good language skills, then you can start learning interpreting.
I see.
Yeah. And then when you learn interpreting, you realize, my language is so bad. I have to keep studying.
I felt the same way. I still feel the same way.
I still feel the same. And I will feel the same way. Yeah, never ending. You will always study. Right before you go to a job, you study. When you're done with a job, you study. And so, constantly learning language and how to say this better and how to say that better. But it's very rewarding. Yeah, it's very rewarding. When you see you did a good job and they communicated with each other and they communicated very well and they forgot you were interpreting, that's a compliment.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, it's a compliment.
Right, exactly. And so my viewers, they would like to become professional event host MCs, and their work eventually might involve interpretation.
Definitely.
But when it comes, they are fluent in both languages, but when it comes to the work, the job, to translate the speeches, they just say, no, I can't do it.
Right.
So what is what is your advice for them to have more confidence, even though they are fluent in both languages? How do they start? Where do they start as an interpreter?
I would say either if you just start doing it, some people say experience, but what I'm concerned about experience is that you're doing it the wrong way, and then the more you do it, you continue the wrong way. For example, if somebody says, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, we're very happy to be here today, and then I have to interpret that. If I said, she said good morning, she's happy to be here today, that would be very wrong.
Right.
And so that's why I think anyone who wants to do interpreting should take basic lessons on the proper role of the interpreter and the proper way to interpret. Even if it's just understanding, this is what I need, this is what I need. If you understand this is what I need, then you can get there. Maybe, if you want to. But I think that really someone should take some kind of classes, and then you practice.
Yeah.
Or at least sit down with somebody like you and somebody who can train them one-on-one. But we say training in interpreting is essential to confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when our work is related to somebody's health, for example, at hospitals, if they somebody is very, very sick, and the doctor's instruction is must be translated, interpreted, and then often the time the family members do that, which you say is not very professional.
Because they don't interpret. Oh, I'll interpret for my sister. And then the doctor says, how are you? And I say, my sister's really bad. She hasn't been feeling well lately.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that I get so involved because I care about the outcome. So we just say, if you want to be the sister, just be the sister, just be the daughter. Don't interpret. Let somebody else do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So in America, it's very, it's a growing industry. So community interpreting is a really fast growing, probably 18% faster than other industries.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Really?
It's one of the fastest growing industries in America. Is including translation, written translation.
I see.
But it takes skills. For anyone to say, I'm bilingual, I can do it, and then we see them do it, and if someone builds confidence, you see, I can do it. The ones who have been trained usually either says, you have potential, but many times they have no idea what they're doing wrong. Yeah. So I would say training really is a must. Even if it's online training or going to like Simul or something like that for like a few months, even something like that I think is very helpful.
Professional training is a must.
Training. I think it's a must.
Yeah.
That's why we offer our 6-week program. It's very short, very reasonably priced. And
I agree.
As long as if you can get in, that tells you your language is good enough to interpret. If you can't get in because your language, we will tell you before you come, work a whole year on this and this and this in your language, and then you come back.
Right.
Yeah. So we're very honest.
And so after the program, I got the certificate, as a certified Japanese English consecutive interpreter, which was a very big credential for me to show to my clients.
Right.
Yeah.
Because not everybody get it. Out of 10 people, there's only a few that probably actually reach that level. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Very good. That means your note taking is good, your accuracy is good, and you can be trusted.
Yes, thank you so much. That was a very incredible summer for me.
Yeah. One time I came back a few years ago. I went to Tokyo, and I was asked to talk to the Court Interpreter Society or Association. It was one of their first meetings. They had a seminar. And myself, I was one of the speakers. There was another teacher that was from Monterey, California, very good, but she had gone back to teach at a university. And when I was going to speak, I realized everyone is Japanese. Who's going to interpret for me? So I called one of my former students who took the summer program, as well as other classes. I said, hey, you're an interpreter. Can you come and interpret for me? She says, how much you going to pay me? I said, nothing. I'm your teacher.
You're your teacher.
So she came as a favor for me. And so I spoke, and she interpreted. I spoke. She was so fast. Then after I spoke, we had a panel, and I was at the end, and she was next to me sitting down, whispering simultaneously everything. And then when there was a question, she would interpret, and then if I answered the question, she would do the consecutive. So when we were finished, I remember us standing around, and people came forward to ask questions. So they came forward, and I'm like, oh, they're going to ask me questions.
Yeah.
And they went right to her, and they said, how long have you been interpreting? You're so good. I'm like, oh. She got the limelight. She got the light because she was so good. They didn't care about me. That was so great. That was a wonderful moment.
It must have been very honoring moment.
I was proud of her. Yeah.
Oh,
that was
that's
great.
Nice. So I
was proud of you too. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
At the
when
university.
You came to Nagoya.
I said, what am I going to do? Oh, Miho can interpret for me. And you did a really good job. Yeah. I remember you were interpreting and I was coaching you. Faster. Don't wait so long.
Right.
Hurry up, speed up. That was.
Yeah, she was mentoring me the whole time. That was fun.
That was wonderful. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Because even people like me, I need an interpreter.
That's right. It's true that one thing I noticed the other day is that having an interpreter, translate your speech I had this experience for the first time, and it was weird. I always interpret somebody's speech or conversations, but having someone do that for me
Did you?
Yeah. And
in Japan, and where? China?
I think it was in Japan. There was a Russian group, and there was a Russian-speaking interpreter, and so I realized, gosh, interpreters must be very quick.
Yes.
Otherwise.
It affects the speaker.
That's right. Yeah.
You lose your sense of concentration, and you're waiting on the interpreter. Like, can you hurry up because I want to say my next thing?
Yes, exactly. And I thought an interpreter must go through, speak with the speaker beforehand, how they would like us, interpreters to cut in, like, sentence by sentence,
when to begin.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's very that the speech pattern of the interpreter can affect the speaker's speech itself, and so that was a very interesting moment for me.
That's good. So you can feel what it was like to be a speaker.
Right.
Yeah. One of the best compliments I've ever had as an interpreter was I was on the stage and I was interpreting for the speaker in Chinese. I was going into English, and there's a couple hundred people in the audience. And when I was done, we went down, and I remember when it was over, an American came up and said, for the longest time, I thought you were the speaker, and he was interpreting for you. Then I realized, wait a minute. You're interpreting, not the speaker. Yeah, and I thought that was a really nice compliment. Yeah, when they actually think that you're the speaker because it's so smooth. Yeah.
Wow, and it's so nice that as an interpreter you get those compliments from the audience.
Yeah, that was good.
Right.
So we can always grow, always improve. Yeah, and I hope because of your experience and you've gone off to the MC world, but you are still interpreting all the time.
Yes, it's part of my job.
Yeah.
As long as the audience has, mixture of Japanese and English-speaking crowds, it has to happen.
Yeah. And you do French too.
Yeah.
So I hope that there's more Japanese. We're so close to Hawaii. Japan is so close to Hawaii. It's just so easy to come over for a summer, a 6-week program and learn. So I hope that because of you, we'll see more students.
So tell us about the next year's program. When the applications, start.
We start accepting applications next year, 2019, in about the end of January. So if they start in January, February, because you still have to find a place to stay. So you'll want to take the test first. It's an oral exam. It doesn't feel like an exam. It's more of an interview, and we kind of trick you into the exam, so it's really easy. But you can go online to our website and apply. Then we will tell you when we will be having this exam, and it's again or this oral interview, and then if you pass, we send you a registration form, and you can register. So our email address is CITS.hawaii.edu. So it's C as in Center for Interpretation and Translation Studies, CITS.hawaii, all spelled out, .edu.
Wow.
For education, yeah. And then you can see our summer program and other programs that we have as well.
Right, you have extended programs like after the course the locals can take.
Yeah, you can continue taking. And then our summer program starts July around this year. It's early. It's around July 1st or 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it lasts until like August 7th or something like that.
I see.
Yeah, it starts earlier this year.
All right. Well, if you are interested in taking the opportunity to become an interpreter in a professional sense, yes, please take a look at the website. So Sue, any final comments for viewers in Japan who would like to improve their language level, like whatever language they speak, but especially in English?
I think that we naturally speak our own language very well, but there's always room for improvement. The number one thing I would suggest if you're going to, especially if you're going to come and study in our program, is to read the news every day. Find out what is happening around the world, because there's so many speakers that mention what is happening. They may say, oh, hurricane that hit Osaka, and you're like, what's going on? Or maybe you know about Japan, but you don't know Hurricane Lane that just hit Hawaii, what? And they mention that, and you're like, what? So we always encourage everyone to study the news and in the current events, and just to read current events in your own language, and then start reading it in the second language, maybe two at the same time. That's the first thing. The second thing is just work on your language, on the second language. So English. So you just work on English. You can take courses or just study on your own. If you're already at a certain level, you don't have really a lot of courses you can take. So just go study on your own by reading current events. And you're like, what does that word mean? Let me look it up. Oh, and then you look it up and you read and you increase your vocabulary.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It's been my pleasure having you on the show.
I'm so honored.
All right, thank you everyone for watching, and please leave us a comment and in the comment space below, and I'll see you in my next video.
Aloha!
Aloha! Ahui ho!
Aloha!